The most important new element that is added to the Dust Tactics universe in Operation Cerberus is 3D structures, and here you have an example. In Operation Cerberus you will find components that will allow you to create 3D structures such as this one, but also structures of different size, shape and number of stories. These structures, in several regards, work like 2D structures, and that, for example, applies to units that are inside the building, firing at units that also inside the building. In that case, all units are in soft cover. The same applies for units that are at the level of the first floor, that are firing inside a building from the outside, or units that are inside and firing to units that are outside. All the old rules still apply. There are new rules, however, when it comes to firing at different heights. Suppose that you have a unit that is here on the ground firing at a unit that is at a higher level, then that unit has a penalty of 1 space when calculating range. However, if you are at a higher level and you're firing at a unit at a lower level, you do not have any penalty. You simply calculate range as if you were the same level. That is one of the advantages of being at a higher level. Also, of course, you have to get to that higher level. How do you do that? Well, pretty simple. You move upwards. Simply put, to move vertically has the same cost as to move horizontally. So from here you could move here at that level there. Also, if two units are directly one on top of the other on two different levels of the same building, those two units can attack each other by simply firing through the floor or through the ceiling, depending on where you are, and in that case the target is in soft cover. Here you see the setup for a scenario called the Hideout. It is not the first scenario in the scenario book, actually it is the 7th, but it is the first one that I've decided to play because it seemed cool. That's the only reason. There is a large structure here in the middle of the battlefield, and what the two sides involved in the fight are trying to do here is to bring a leader, a command unit inside the building, at least one, and to keep it there until the end of the game. If there is one player, one of the two players, and only one who has a command unit inside the building at the end of the game, at the end of turn 8, then that player is the winner. If both players have such a unit in the building, or maybe if no player has such a unit in the building, then you determine the winner by counting victory points as usual. And, well, of course, I've already selected my armies, and out of curiosity, I'm going to show you. Here I have my allies, and of course, because of the objective of the scenario, I have two command units that the allies have selected, I've decided to bring in, and not by chance the Axis forces have decided to do the same. Here I have two command units for the Axis, and then a variety of other types of units. This is the layout for a scenario that I played last night. The scenario is called A Bloody Victory, and here I recreated it on the floor just to show it to you. I played this scenario face to face with a friend. It is a scenario that takes quite a while to play, but it is a phenomenal scenario. It is definitely the largest scenario I've played in Dust Tactics. The board is formed by 20 formed tiles, 6 by 4. So you will need to put together tiles from several expansions in order to be able to create this board here. Then we have some traditional elements that block movement and line of sight, and two one-story buildings right there. This is the largest scenario played, not just because of the size of the board, but also because of the size of the armies. The two factions, attacker and defender, have 600 army points each. And actually those should be divided in two 300-point groups. This is indeed a scenario that can be played by 4 players, each controlling half of the army of each of the two sides. We just play with 2 players controlling both halves, which nevertheless need to be kept separate, because in this scenario you score points by having units that start on one half of your starting edge, reaching the opposite half of the opposite edge. So from here to here, from here to here, and of course vice versa. An unusual thing here is that, well, in most scenarios in Dust Tactics you have objectives such as this one that allow you to score points, and then on top of that you add the points that you earn by eliminating enemy units. Not here, unless I misread the scenario instructions, which I read several times. Here, the only points that you score are the ones that you score by occupying your objective areas, not by eliminating enemy units. You will still want to eliminate enemy units because you want to prevent them from scoring points, but the fact that destruction of enemy units per se does not earn you points has a general effect, of course, on the overall flow of the battle and the strategy of the two players. And then just the sheer size of the armies ensures that there is a lot of variety on the boards in terms of units' capabilities and the resulting actions and interactions that will come from well, so many different units being on the board. Here I just rearranged the layout of the previous scenario, the one you saw in the previous segment, to show the layout of another scenario, scenario number 6, the 4 horsemen, another large scenario, 24 tiles to form the board, 3 buildings this time. Again, we have 600-point armies, but in this case they are not divided in halves, they're just a single formation of 600 points per side. The two sides, the two factions will enter from opposing edges on the board, and they will try to take control of objective areas on the map. There are 4 of them, 1 is in there in that building, 2 in this building, and 1 in this building here. Victory may be determined by control of objectives. If at the end of the game one of the two players controls more objective than the opponent does, then the player is the winner. But if there's a tie there, then you revert to the old-fashioned way of determining a winner, which is by counting victory points that are assigned by elimination of enemy units. This is a scenario that I haven't played yet. I thought it would be convenient to show it to you since I had everything already set up on the floor. It is a scenario that I will play in solitaire later on today using the same armies that I had before. Very promising scenario. Again, I see a nice interaction here between bottleneck areas and buildings from which defending units can try to protect those bottlenecks, to slow down the advance of the opponent. I still haven't thought of how and where to place cover elements which will go in that central band of the board there. In any case, another very promising scenario.